Hello friends, just before the video starts I'm just giving a pre-warning that I messed something up with the recording and the gameplay footage is a lot worse than normal I think. I'm just here to say sorry, and also if this is your first video, they're normally not like this, and for everyone else I'll try not to let this happen again in the future. Apologies, but enjoy.
Onwards to Staddle. I was excited to see what it was like. I had heard that there was a much higher population of halflings. Their kind had consistently impressed me, so I was eager to meet more and explore a town where they were a majority. Celandine, Brandybuck, and Filbert Burrows had shown bravery far beyond their measure, so my expectations were high. My determination to pursue the thread left by Toradan was strong, but I was yet to discover how enthralling the lives of halflings were.
Hello there. Good day. Might I have a word with you?
Before reaching Staddle, I found Lolo Wendingway, the halfling trader who exchanged pipeweed for honey from Burl Beeman in Combe. Unfortunately, a bear had made off with his pack, which contained his coin purse. Wendingway's opportunity for the best prices of pipeweed were fast diminishing, so I quickly set out to reclaim the merchant's gold.
How do you do?
Wendingway was relieved to have his coin purse returned, and he saw in me opportunities for others to benefit as he had.
Stay and have some tea.
I applauded the halfling's opportunism, but mainly his thoughtfulness. He mentioned a man named Heathstraw in Bree, with the title of Second Watcher, who was well acquainted with the issues facing the town, especially ones relating to refugees from the south and whispers of the rising dark.
Could I take a moment of your time?
Watcher Redweed was another such man, but in Staddle. Apparently, fears emanating from the Midgewater Marsh and tall folk moving into ruins to the south were affecting those who guarded the town. My course of action was already decided, but the mention of these tall folk, presumably more Blackwolds, made the decision to delay my first foray into the great hub of Bree much easier. Even so, I couldn't help but longingly look at the great walls of what, in Archet, held an almost mythical quality. Considered to be alike to a capital city in this region, I could only imagine the bustle and throngs of people, their advanced trade, diverse cuisine, grand architecture, and distance to the oppressive fight for survival experienced by the towns I had so far encountered. But my time in Bree would come. At that moment, other matters demanded my attention. It was not long before I arrived in Staddle, and the halfling's effect on the town was immediately noticeable. Staddle, a village in Bree-land located on the gentler southeastern slopes of Bree Hill, tucked against the rolling hillocks that stretch east toward the marshes. Staddle was the main settlement of the Bree hobbits, and pipeweed grew in abundance on the south slopes of Bree Hill. It is said that the oldest settlements of hobbits in Middle-earth can be found in Staddle, though whether or not this is true is a matter which has been well debated over many a meal, mug, or pipe, and often all three. The halfling's effect was a canniness in detail. It was clear that here not all things were built for purpose or utility. The trees were planted aesthetically. The path meandered lazily, not providing the most optimal route, but the most ergonomic. The architecture fascinated me. Roofs of moss and quaint round windows. The buildings felt like they had grown where they stood, sprouting out of the ground like toadstools. Every detail felt intentional, down to the lanterns and the wagons. All of this did not let me overlook the clear need for aid. Many townsfolk seemed eager for the offering of a helping hand, so offer it I did.
I'm sure it's a bother, but I could use your help.
Longo Daegman's hound was feeling poorly and was not eating. His owner's concern was tangible, and speaking to this Eldo Swatmidge at the edge of town, who knew much about animals, would be a small burden.
Might I have a word with you?
Hemlock Grouse was having issues with his pipeweed field, and he suspected the Blackwold brigands to be the cause. He spoke true that the taste for pipeweed had grown strong among men, so his suspicions were plausible. He handed me a letter and requested I bring it to a Constable Bolger and ask what he intended to do about these fiends.
Could I speak with you a moment?
Watcher Reedy was aware of talk about goblins, but was more worried of what she called Nika-breakers. She believed that their population was growing and would burst out of the Midgewater marshes and onto the town itself. I was eager to test myself against this new foe and was told to seek out Edda Twiggins in the southeast of the marshes once a few had been slain.
What can I do for you?
Watcher Redweed was glad Wendingway had sent me his way. There were many things that required attention.
Would you do something for me?
An older hobbit named Gammy Boggs kept tabs on all the hobbits east of town and usually wanted something done.
Stay a moment.
Talk of goblins had necessitated an actual report. 2 sets of ruins lay in the southern expanse of the marshes. Someone needed to find out if both ruins were occupied and deal with any goblins they found. Afterward, I would speak with Bill Mosfett, who had taken up station in the eastern marshes.
Would you do something for me?
Finally, the goblins were able to work together due only to their 2 chieftains, Gerstaz and Gersrum. If I could remove them, the goblins would not be able to mount a unified attack on Staddle.
How can I be of service?
Constable Tanglerush could sense my hurry, so I hastily relayed the events in Combe relating to Torredan. She expressed disbelief. She had recently gone to deliver his message to a cave across the marshes, but had found it empty. With not much to go on, I could only investigate this cave myself, hoping to see something she had missed. She gave me the directions and warned me to steer clear of the Marshwater Fort at the heart of the marshes.
Stay a moment.
She also told me of increased numbers of wild animals around Staddle and informed me of the town's integral role. Its people provided much of Bree-land with farm-grown food. The high number of guards and watchers were dispatched from Bree itself to ensure this supply was not affected. The anxiety toward the wildlife was therefore warranted, as it would be disastrous if the farmers were injured or unable to work their land. Leaving the center of town, I assembled all these tasks into 2. It seemed many a threat lurked within the Midgewater Marsh, but nearer in proximity were more trifling matters. I would speak to Gammy Boggs and Eldo Swatmidge and deliver Himlock Grouse's letter to Constable Bolger before focusing on the more serious problems.
How do you do?
Boggs was warmed by Redweed's consideration, and then wasted no time in demonstrating her knowledge of the local populace.
Hello there. Might I speak with you a moment?
This led to her complimenting one Falco Greenhand as the best gardener in all of Staddle, though she was troubled. He had not come to see her lately, and the quality of his garden was on a recent downturn. To put her mind at ease, I set off to try and understand this uncharacteristic behavior.
Hello there.
Greenhand's garden was certainly nothing extraordinary, and he himself was irritated by my presence and Boggs's nosiness. Something was off about this whole ordeal.
A lovely day, isn't it? Good day. Might I have a word with you?
Boggs sensed the same and was stubborn in the face of adversity. Not willing to give up, she suggested I speak to other folk and see if I could glean any more information.
What do you need?
Lily Underhill was as tight-lipped as Greenhand, but this in of itself revealed enough.
Good day. Stay and have some tea.
Boggs was in agreement and thought up the ingenious tactic to ask Underhill again, but nicely.
Hello?
It worked. Maintaining a promise to Greenhand to not speak to anyone about this on one hand, she emphasized her love of flowers, especially lilies, which could be found south of here. The root of Greenhand's dilemma should be visible from there. Closer to me was Eldo Swatmidge, however, so I decided to see if he knew of anything to aid Longo Dagman's hound.
It's terrible. Just terrible.
It turned out that the hound, named Gar, was one of Swatmidge's hounds, named Wenetta's litters. As such, he was eager to help. He had everything he needed, but lacked fennel seeds. These could be found in the marsh, and failing that, within the pincers of the strangely named Nikabreakers. Of course, the solution required more time and effort than I assumed, so I added this task to the grouping contained within the
Could
marsh.
I take a moment of your time?
Before I left, though, Swatmidge laid bare his regret of not being able to share his farm and life with another. A widow, Asphodel Froghorn, lived nearby but was refusing all of Swatmidge's invitations and advances. I wondered if this was due to his slight note of desperation, but agreed to offer my aid to her as her farm was already in the direction I was headed. Froghorn's house was adjacent to an expansive field and a beautiful avenue. I was made to take a step back and appreciate the splendor in front of me. While doing so, I became acutely aware that the trappings of small-town life were once again drawing my attention. The boars, goblins, and Nikabreakers were yet to be dealt with, but these simple matters, ones of gardens, love, and community, what was life without them? Not much of a human would I be if violence was the only cause I pursued, and the only answer I could mete out.
lovely day, isn't it?
I had not been the only person sent by Swatmidge to help Froghorn.
Good day. Might I have a word with you?
She continued her resoluteness in rejecting his propositions, but admitted her short-handedness in the wake of her husband's departure. So I brought in some of the pipeweed harvest.
Hello there.
She thanked me, and I sidled in a few kind words of Swatmidge's character. To my surprise, she handed me a letter to take back to him. Perhaps this was progress. She told me not to read it, but the romanticism and storyline of these two lonesome halflings was too enticing. The letter contained words of thanks, but also of stern disavowal for his most recent proposals of courtship. A shame. During this lapse in my concern for privacy, my eyes also devoured the words written by Himlock Grouse to Constable Bolger. He was unhappy with Bolger's inaction toward the Blackwolds, purloining his ripest crop, and demanded the restoration of these stolen goods. Threatening the constable through consultation with Redweed, Foxglove, and Tanglerush, a line between halfling authority and that of the big folk, as he called them, was drawn. Clearly, Grouse preferred to keep this matter amongst his own kind, and I respected his desire to not rely on external forces.
Please, leave me to my sorrow.
The saga involving Swatmidge and Froghorn was not yet to be concluded.
Could I take a moment of your time?
At this point, I settled into what I expected to be a drawn-out affair. I was now in too deep, and had to see it through to the end. He was of the belief that more sycophantic compliments of himself would sway her opinion, but also clued in to Froghorn's letter and its mention of bears wandering closer to her farm. As this also involved the general safety of the town, I was more than content to thin out their population. On the edge of Staddle, looking out at the southern Chetwood, a bulwark against external forces, was the home of Constable Bolger.
Just a moment. Could I take a moment of your time?
Bolger was more irritated by Grouse's letters, which were apparently constant, than the Blackwolds themselves. His knowledge of where the Blackwolds were situated did not revive my impression of him, but at least I could now retrieve Grouse's pipeweed myself. Before setting off to this most recent site of Blackwold organization, Ostbaranor, I determined to deal with the boars for Constable Tanglerush and the bears for Swatmidge and Froghorn, while remaining on the lookout for lilies for Lily Underhill. These would purportedly lead me to the cause of Falco Greenhand's garden controversy, although I had a sneaking suspicion the site of Ostbaranor was what awaited me. Ostbaranor. These ruins mark the place where yet another tower of the North Kingdom once stood, now faded into memory. It was alarming to see Blackwolds so near Staddle. The ruins were more fittingly named than the other bases set up by the brigands, with the only defense remaining being the external wall, and even that had numerous portions missing. Parallels could be drawn between the failing stonework and the group of rogues who remained, cowering within the failing battlements. I strongly wished that Staddle would be the last town I travelled through that suffered at the hands of these vermin.
Good day.
Froghorn appreciated the help I had performed, but her answer to Swatmidge was still no, even after I talked him up, praising his honesty.
Is there something I can do for you?
Before I could detail what my lily-picking had uncovered, Underhill confirmed my suspicions that the Blackwolds were the source of Falco Greenhand's consternation. I gave her the lilies as thanks, but before informing Gammy Boggs of these developments, I headed over to Swatmidge.
Oh, woe is me.
Swatmidge would not be swayed, and believed us to be on the right path.
Might I trouble you for some help?
To further his position in Froghorn's graces, he had sent extra money to Himlock Grouse so that he could buy her produce for double the usual amount. He then asked me to deliver her goods and bring back the enlarged sum. My optimism for Swatmidge's chances were beginning to fail, but I couldn't be the reason, so accepted.
Hello there.
Froghorn gave me the crop grown on her farm, and I made sure to emphasize Swatmidge's caring nature toward his dogs. It would not be said that Malvagil did not do all he could. On the way back to the center of town, I first popped into Gammy Boggs's farm.
Hello there.
She advised me to speak with Falco Greenhand once more.
Hello there. Might I speak with you a moment?
Maybe he would be more responsive after learning that I was somewhat aware of his troubles. Unexpectedly, she also unveiled a sword of expert make, which I happily received and named Hearsay.
A lovely day, isn't it?
Was there no end to the Blackwold's desperation? They had preyed on Greenhand's most prized possession. Money had flowed from him to the villains, all so that they did not ruin his garden. Eventually, he had put an end to the exploitative business, and they had stayed true to their word. To make matters worse, they now threatened to torch the entire town if he did not meet his next payment. Their actions in Archet had made this intimidation believable. Supposedly, they were trying to impress someone with the name Sharky, making them more volatile than normal. He apologized for not being initially upfront, and put his hope in Constable Bolger to aid me in stopping them.
What do you need?
On my return to the center of town, I quickly informed Constable Tanglerush that a number of the boars had been put to death. She was glad that this had been done, especially as none of the good folk of Staddle were yet to be injured.
How rude!
I then delivered Froghorn's produce to Himlock Grouse. He was the second hobbit to complain of another's lack of what they called hobbit sense, and it was making me feel unsure as to whether such a trait should be desirable. Filbert Burrows had acted courageously, and Swatmidge was certainly proving to be tenacious. Both were mindsets I coveted.
How rude! Might I speak with you a moment?
Grouse was then extremely thankful to have his stolen pipeweed returned, but justifiably worried that the root problem had still not been addressed. I resolved to stake out his field, kill their leader, and a few others of their number. Like a childish novel, I would be embarrassed to be caught reading. The case of Swatmidge and Froghorn continued to impose itself into my thoughts, so I first returned to her.
Good day. Stay and have some tea.
She immediately deduced Swatmidge's involvement, but lo and behold, she was ready to give the persistent yet sweet-hearted halfling a chance. Like a cool glass of milk one sips only to find it has soured, she declared an ultimatum. She would only consider his courtship if he sold his loyal companion, Wenetta. A cartload of toil and emotions had all been vanquished by a simple allergy. Swatmidge would be crushed that it was now his turn to reject her advances, for I saw no possibility of him even considering cutting loose his only partner. Before facing this reality,
Hello.
I decided to visit Constable Bolger and report on the concerns facing Falco Greenhand. He was sympathetic toward Greenhand, and also mentioned this anonymous character Sharky. Discussion of what measures should be taken became that much easier when the scoundrel Blackwolds suddenly came at the three of us in waves. My earlier concerns over Bolger's inaction and the fact that the irritation of receiving Himlock Grouse's letters was more pressing to Bolger than the threat itself were soon quelled. Bolger proved a dab hand with the sword, and he fought viciously and without relent, earning my approval. His position right at the edge of the dangerous Chetwood, the place he had chosen for his home, now exuded bravery and courage. A stern blow dealt by the halfling constable of Staddle himself would draw a clear line in the dirt. The halfling people were not to be disturbed or extorted any further, so I returned to Greenhand to notify him of the development.
How do you do?
Greenhand was elated to hear that his garden was now safe, and that Staddle would not be burned to the ground. He promised not to interact with Sharky's men again, and told me more of his story.
Stay. Have some tea.
He had initially been approached by a human named Jasper Mudbottom, who used to reside in Staddle. He had joined the Blackwolds but returned shortly before Archet was burned. On his return, Greenhand noticed that the man was changed. He was stronger and mean-spirited. I puzzled out that this was most likely due to the use of dark sorcery, the strange hooded men, and the Nazgul. Now, Mudbottom could be found in Ostbaranor, deep within its ruins. Knowledge that he most likely had a part to play in the torching of my own town gave me enough motivation to deal with the villain. The possibility that Greenhand would be able to once again grow the best pipeweed in all of Bree-land was just gilding on the lily. Pipeweed and protecting the cultivation of it then drew me toward Hemlock Grouse's farm. If I could remove the leader of the Blackwolds there and take a few of his henchmen with him, another farm would be free to continue its trade, boosting the local economy and its people's quality of life. My victory here gave me great satisfaction and the fortitude to face Eldo Swatmij.
I'm sorry, my thoughts were elsewhere.
As I expected, he would not sell Winetta, and all of our efforts had been for naught. Fate had decided to be cruel to these two lonesome hobbits. Right at the moment where a pairing between them seemed possible, it had reared its ugly head and forbade it.
Hello there.
But Swatmij's selfless acts and loyalty to his Winetta awoke something in Froghorn that was stronger than fate itself. She now saw in him something most desirable and wished for him to know it. This final ride between the two halflings felt monumental. I had begun to help more out of pity for the poor Swatmij. Pity had become hope, which had then been ripped away, and now finally I had good news for the unrelenting hobbit.
Oh, woe is me.
I had not encountered something quite so heartwarming as this on my travels so far. Guilt had begun to gnaw at me. The nearby people of Staddle and their affairs were absorbing my time. I had expected to already be deep within the Midgewater marshes, dealing with what could be seen as real adventure and providing true pivotal aid. But I was only human, and I was greatly touched by the sincerity and innocence of these people. Looking back, I would not have changed a thing. The only stain that remained here was this Jasper Mudbottom, so I revisited Ostbaranor and drove forth into the ruins' center. The brute fell at my hands, and all that was left to do was speak with Falco Greenhand and Hemlock Grouse, letting them know that their farms were safe.
Hello there.
Greenhand correctly pointed to Gammy Boggs's nosy ways and gossiping nature as the source for all of his aid. Were it not for her knowledge of Staddle's people and his change in demeanor, none of this would have happened. In thanks, he gifted me a well-made hammer, which I named Trust.
It's been a foul day, it has.
Lastly, I let Grouse know that his farms would no longer be stolen from. The small matters of Staddle had proved large indeed. The nearby threat of the Blackwolds had been quelled for now, and I had provided help to as many of its citizens as I possibly could. What awaited me now lay in the fog of the Midgewater marshes. This wild, untamed expanse held all sorts of possibilities. I had not faced goblins before, or indeed these strange Nikabreakers, and I was eager to embark on the next leg of my journey. Hidden amongst it all, perhaps I could gain vengeance for Torredan and help the other rangers. It was they who had first put me on this path, and for that, I owed them much.